Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome once again to the Bourse Report. The big news in finance is that our Minister of Finance is on a roadshow from today to promote the issue of a US $1 billion bond. How is this bond going to affect us in terms of our economic indicators, as well as what is in it for you? Can you participate in the bond, and what is the likely rate at which the bond will come out by the end of this week or shortly thereafter? So we take a quick look at what has been happening in terms of the debt story that is going on at this point in time. Recall that thus far this year, the minister or the government has borrowed something like $3.1 billion TT. Add to that the 6.7 billion equivalent to the $1 billion US bond, and you will see on your first graph what is happening in terms of an important ratio that is used by investors and lenders abroad internationally. And that ratio is called the debt to GDP, which is the debt to our gross domestic product. You can see what's happening since 2011 up until now, and you see that that ratio is increasing. The higher the ratio, it impacts the credit adversely. And what we see with that 6.7 billion or 1 billion US plus the 3.1 billion, equivalent to about $10 billion in borrowing, if successful thus far, you will see that we are getting up to that debt ratio of 56%. What does it mean? It means that we have set ourselves a target of about 65%, and in another year or so, we will reach that particular limit. Let's go on now and talk about what's happening in terms of currency and the impact of currency. Well, what this second graph does show is that in 2015, you would have seen that the central bank issued about $2.6 billion US, which is a high over the past 5 years, into the system, injecting that into the system, because sales from the public would have fallen to 4.94, and this is particularly those US dollar generating companies, particularly in the oil and gas sectors. As prices fell and volumes fell, you would have found that there was a shortfall. So this is what is happening in terms of the currency picture. Now, what are the factors that we need to look at? As you come back to me, what are some of the factors that we need to look at in terms of going forward, apart from the debt to GDP ratio? Well, economic factors are pointing downwards. The IMF is suggesting that our GDP will fall by about 2.7% from the current levels of about $167 billion. And therefore, as our denominator falls and our debt rises, you could find that the ratio is going up. Let's look very quickly at the key contributors to the GDP. That is oil and gas. If you look at what is happening with oil, two factors. One is that if we look at gas first. If you look at gas prices fell in the first quarter 2016 to a figure as low as $1.65. And it has been bounding up back. At this current time, it's about $2.72. But the other figure that you look at on the blue blocks on your screen is that our volume of gas production is falling, and falling quite significantly. If you look at the units that it would be measured in, it has been falling from a figure of, in 2015, of about 4 billion down to 3.5, and it's now below that figure as we speak. So there are volume issues, and it will impact GDP. Let's look quickly at oil. And as we turn to oil, we also see a similar story in terms of production. We see that in the first quarter, second quarter 2015, oil production was over 80,000 barrels per day. It has already fallen to about 73,000 barrels per day, a significant fall. So those two factors would impact the overall GDP. So as we go on, we will turn and look now at what's in it for you in terms of the pricing of the bond. Word on the street, as we go to our next graph, word on the street is that the bond is likely to be priced between 4.25% to 4.5%, and that the term of the bond would be about 12 years. Given these factors and the fact that the Trinidad and Tobago bond has been producing good yields, better yields than the corporate yield curve for A-rated to A- rated issues. Trinidad and Tobago, as you know, is A- rated. What we can expect is that there will be reasonable demand. We feel that the bond will be taken up, if properly priced, somewhere in the 4.25% to 4.5%. In it for you, can you participate? The answer is yes. Carve-out is being made for local investors. It will probably go first to the institutional investors and then be sold down into the retail sector. If you are interested, give us a call and we can advise you about these matters. That's what's happening in our world of finance today. I will give you a further update at the middle of the week as to what is happening with this particular bond. Have yourself a wonderful investment week. This is Subhash Ram Kilawan for the Bourse Report.